This is Nimram speaking to you, and I command you to go to DevonTaylorAuthor.com right now. You must check the specials. Listen to me. You must check the specials now.
Welcome to a brand new experience with innovative voices from all over the world. I would like to invite you all to something that is magical, something that is powerful, and something that is from my heart. This is the Devon Taylor Podcast. Hello all, and welcome to another episode of the Devon Taylor Podcast. I am super honored for our guest today because this is not only a dear friend of mine, but someone that I look up to immensely. She is an author, a speaker, a vice president for her company. I would like to introduce and welcome Kendra Petty. Hi, Kendra.
Hey, Devon. Thank you so much for having me. Quite an honor.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Honestly, when I was thinking about doing the podcast, you were one of the first people that I thought of, and you were one of the first people that responded. So naturally, it just made me feel like I was in the right place and doing the right thing. So I really appreciate you even taking the time to meet with me and talk with me and letting everyone get to know you a little bit better. So just to kind of, talk about your book. I've had a few different authors on here, but I thought your episode could be more so reflective of everything that's happened after you've written your book and kind of how it's transformed you or at least opened your eyes in some ways. And so my first question that I really wanted to ask you was, how has it been since you have written your book?
Well, first, let me say congratulations on your new podcast. I know you've had a podcast in the past, and this is a new venture for you. So congratulations. I'm excited for you. I'm very proud of you. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
To answer your question, how has it gone since and how has it been for me since I released my book was published? It's been incredible. A lot more amazing than I expected. So many things have come from it, but I think first and foremost, so much healing has come from it that I really didn't expect. My life was full of just a tremendous amount of trauma and tragedy, and much of it is rather unrelatable for many, many people. Some of it is relatable, but much of it is pretty unrelatable. And when I finally decided to write the book, I never thought that it took me 3 years with a ghostwriter to write it, and I never thought so much healing could come from that. And then once it was published, I started doing interviews and podcasts and radio interviews and written interviews, a little bit of TV. And every time I talk about my story and every time I talk about my healing process, it's a little more healing for me. So that selfishly has been incredible. But the outcome of, and really why I decided eventually to publish the book, was that I thought perhaps my story and my healing process and my path to healing could help people. And the amount of feedback, positive feedback, and people that have reached out to me, thank you for sharing your story. It has really helped me. And, I've put into play some of the things that you've included in your book on your healing path. I align with some of the things you went through, and that gives me hope that I can also heal, or I don't feel so alone. And my favorite feedback is, wow, your book was the kick in the pants that I really needed. My life is not so bad. I need to really get up and start living and appreciate my life. And I love that because it took me a long time to get there, right? After going through so much trauma, it took me a long time to get to where I thought, I've really got to start learning to thrive in life and not just live. So the feedback's been tremendous.
Yeah, and I can even say, we met because we were doing the speech in Naples. And if anyone wants to check out Kendra's book, it is I Cannot Believe I'm Not Dead. And I read it from front to back. And yeah, just the story and hearing what you've been through and just knowing where you're at right now is just amazing to me. It's one of those stories where it makes me feel like, yeah, like I can do it. If I keep going and I keep pushing myself forward, I'm going to be accomplishing whatever it is that I want to. And so with that being said, like, what advice can you give to anyone that may have a similar background, that has traumatic, upbringings, or, they've just been through a lot? What can you say that can help them right now? You know?
Oh gosh, there's so much to healing, and you hear people say, you hear the phrase, you got to do the work, and that's really true.
Yeah.
You really got to do the work, and so you got to dig in and find what is your path to healing. But I would say the first baseline thing is don't get stuck. Don't get stuck
Mhm.
in a toxic situation. Don't get stuck in a toxic relationship. Don't get stuck in blame or anger, or a big one, don't get stuck in a woe is me, oh poor me. Because the more you get stuck in any of that, the more it pulls you down, drags you down, it puts you in a negative space, and it's just that much harder for you to crawl out of all that negativity and all that toxicity.
Yeah. And I feel like people find themselves in those situations where it's really hard for them to even distinguish, like, am I in a bad relationship, or am I in a situation where I need to get out of?
Right.
What do you feel like helped you, like, say, enough is enough and I need to get out?
Yeah. It took me decades, honestly, because I was raised in an extremely abusive home, and my entire childhood was every kind of abuse you could imagine: physical, verbal, mental, emotional, sexual, every kind of abuse for many, many years, and very, very traumatic abuse. It wasn't just some slapping around and hitting. It was, very intense. And every day was very 911, sort of hair on fire, living with my mother, and some of the other living situations, and living in a religious cult that created more abuse. So it was really just kind of one trauma after another. The tragic death of my brother while we were together as kids, and what that led to for my family's divorce. I mean, it really was just one thing after another as a child. And so when you live in a life growing up, as you're molding and growing and maturing, when you live a life of abuse, your tolerance and your level of being able to tolerate bad situations is very high, very, very high. So it took me a long time to realize that some of the things in my adulthood, while I didn't create them, I allowed myself to stay in them far too long.
Mm.
I was not good at recognizing red flags. I was not good at creating boundaries for myself. And so about 6 years ago, I hit a wall where I just said, enough. I can't keep living like this tumultuous, just constant trauma and tragedy. And some of the things that I'd been through later in my childhood, my adulthood, created an environment of tremendous fear for me, where I really just shut down. I didn't allow people in my home. I was scared, constantly looking over my shoulder. Someone had tried to kill me, and it just left. I was very traumatized, and I went from being very social and outgoing to just living in fear constantly. And 6 years ago, I hit a wall, and I really just looked back at my life as I started to dig in and find my way to healing. And I said, wow, it took all of that for me to finally snap out of it and say, I have got to create boundaries for myself. I've got to remove myself from toxic situations, and remove myself from friendships and family that are toxic, and the dating world, who I'm dating. Just really create those boundaries. And I have to start adhering to red flags a whole lot sooner. So it took me decades to get there, but at least I got there.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, everyone goes at their own pace, and obviously it hasn't slowed you down in everything that you're doing, and how you've, encompassed your life and transformed it into just this amazing, I don't know, I just love everything about what you embody. So what do you feel, like, why do you feel it was important for you to write your story? What was that catalyst for you to say, I need my story to be heard, and I feel like it should be written in a book?
That's a good question. So for years, I would share little snippets of things or little stories with my friends, not the more traumatic ones, but also some of the crazy events that are sometimes funny or not so funny. I would share them with my friends, and they would say, "Oh my God, you have to write a book." And I would say, "No, no, no, I don't have time. And who would read it anyway? That's not my wheelhouse." And so I never really thought about it. When I hit that wall and I started digging in and trying to figure out how I could heal my mind, my body, my soul, my heart, in hopes that it would help change the trajectory of this trauma and tragedy that was just a continuous cycle. There's a lot of things I did, a lot, and to this day, healing and moving forward and finding new paths, creating new neural paths from all the damage that's been done. It's a long process. But in that, when I was about a year or so into my healing process, this is kind of crazy, but I guess it was my internal voice telling me, and I would hear it over and over: write it down, write the book, write it down. And I just, I ignored it. And I thought, what in the world? Why does this keep going through my head? And it got louder and louder. And it lasted several months, probably 3 months. And it got louder and louder. And I finally said, fine, I will write it down. I will write the book. And that really is what kind of catapulted me into the writing. I hired a ghostwriter. It took us 3 years. It was a much more in-depth, arduous process than I thought, but it was also very healing. But it was, there was a lot more reading and editing and rewriting. I was very involved in the book, with the ghostwriter. So it was a huge learning process. But when I hired her name's Jessica Jones. When I hired Jessica, I said, I don't want to publish this. This makes me way too vulnerable. It puts everything out there for people to read. These are things I never even talk about to people. People read the book and they were like, I've known you 20 or 30 years and didn't know any of this. So I told her, I don't want to publish it. I just need it put down in writing. I need it, methodical for me, for my family, maybe for a few friends. And we move along in the process. And she's a published author. She's written her own books that are published. She's ghostwritten a number of books. She's worked for 2 of the 5 big publishing houses. So she really knows her stuff. And as we moved along through the process, she said, you have to publish this. You have to share this with the world. And I said, absolutely not. No way, no how. 2 years, we kind of go back and forth and we battle, kind of like this. And for 2 years, I said, no, no, no. And then we get into the 3rd year and she's still pushing me. And I said, okay, I will think about it. And as I moved through that 3rd year, I just really thought about, why am I still alive? Like, I should be dead. Many, 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 many times over, I should be dead. And so I thought, maybe the reason why I'm still alive is to share my story and share these experiences and share my path to healing. And so I finally told Jessica, okay, I'll publish it. And it took a lot. I was very trepidatious, but she helped me find April, who was our mutual publisher in O'Leary Publishing. And the rest is history. We worked hard to get it out there, and it's been incredible.
I got chills when you said that. Oh man, that's amazing. For just to go back a little bit, when you were getting that, like, almost like, it feels like it was like a call. Do you feel like that was like the universe calling to you to make this happen, to make the book happen, and Jessica was just kind of on your shoulder to help, push that forward?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think my internal voice, or whether it was the universe telling me, write it down, write the book, I think that was the beginning. And then finding Jessica and having her really, and just her background. I interviewed a lot of ghostwriters, and not everyone had the background of Jessica. She had a very dynamic background in publishing and in book writing. And so she was definitely the right one to help lead me down that path. And she was just incredible. We're still friends today. Good friends. I will see her in a few weeks.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love it. And, I love that you said that you have the book ghostwrited, because a lot of people feel so stifled by the writing process that they don't even begin it. And there's so many ways that you can publish a book, even if it's using a ghostwriter. Like, that is helping you pull forward what you want the world to know. So
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that point, because that's so important for people that may be struggling to tell their own story, or just having a starting point. So
it is hard. It's hard. I tried a couple times to sit down and start, and I just, I'm very busy as it is. I travel a lot for work, and even if I had the time, there's no way I could have been able to put that book together to read in the way it needed to and to flow in the methodical process that Jessica helped me put it together in. So yeah, ghostwriters are for me. If and when and if I ever do another book, I will definitely use a ghostwriter. If Jessica's still ghostwriting, she gave up ghostwriting for a while right after we finished my book. She said this was the most emotional, most difficult book I ever had to write. She said, but I have grown so much from it. And then she quit ghostwriting for a couple of years. I think she's back kind of dabbling in it, but I think I ruined her for a little bit. She needed a break.
I would say it's a great book, and yeah, there's a lot of emotion that goes through it.
I'm going to show it real quick.
Right, yeah, please. I'm going to put links so that everyone can go and buy it after this episode. But it definitely had me on a roller coaster. And I remember sometimes I would have to put it down and be like, oh my gosh, that was so heavy.
Yeah.
How do I process this within my own body? And those type of books to me really register, because you're really taking in the experience and really getting to know that person from a different lens. And maybe not even the lens that you would normally, like you were saying, tell people. So I commend you for being so forthcoming with that book and just putting yourself out there, because it's not easy. But yeah, just to piggyback on everything that we're talking about, I feel like you are such an amazing leader, just in the way that you carry yourself, the way that, even around children, the way that you treated Noah with so much love. I just would really like to ask you a few questions pertaining to, like, what advice would you give to anyone that's looking to kind of upgrade their life or continue to, find the path that they're on? Because I feel like you've tapped something that not a lot of people, get to, or at least accomplish.
Sure. It was a long process, honestly. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I was born in a time where the expectation was, as a female, that I was just going to get married and have kids, be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen in Oklahoma. And that was never for me. I never had that desire. I always knew I wanted to live in the big cities, New York and LA. And for whatever reason, I knew that I needed to go to college. That wasn't really a big conversation in our house. I was the first person to graduate from college in my home, in my family. But I left Oklahoma right away after high school and moved to New York City. And I established my residency, and I went to school. I eventually started college there in Manhattan, and I worked 3 jobs to get it done. And so part of it was my own personal drive. I guess what I was born with. I have a lot of my dad in me, and he drives hard as a businessman. He's very, very successful, and I have that business acumen, that business mind, and that drive. So fortunately for me, I was born, I think I was born with a lot of it, but I think what I went through and growing up, I always knew I never wanted to stay in Oklahoma. It was just not the place for me, and it was a very depressing place for me. And when I got to New York, it was like a whole new world, and it was an incredible experience. And I've moved a lot for my work, and so I've now lived in almost every major city in the U.S., so I've been very fortunate. But I focused very hard on building my career. That's what I wanted. And I think it's wonderful and beautiful for people who want to raise kids and have a family and get married. That's beautiful and wonderful. And you can still obviously have a very successful career. But for me, that just wasn't in my story, if you will. But I focused on my career, and I moved a lot for my career to be able to climb that corporate ladder. And there were certainly times where I've gotten burnt out in my career, or things have gotten stale in my career. And so then I just always look for what externally can I do to better myself, learn more, further my career, do something a little different, broaden my horizons, if you will. And then really, the book has just created so many new paths for me, which I really needed, because there's only so long that you can, continue to build your career and do what you're doing and not have other facets in your life. So the book has now led to a number of speaking engagements, and I've developed a company. I hired a company to help me develop a company to launch a speaker platform from the book. and about my story and my healing path. So that's just been incredible. That's sort of I hate to say hobby, but I'm still working, so it's kind of a part-time thing for me. But it's just led to so many things. So for me, my drive, my focus, never giving up. Always driving hard and always pushing, and working in a completely male-dominated industry. There have been plenty of times where I've wanted to give up and walk away, but just sticking with it and having the faith in myself that I can get there and that I can continue to climb to whatever level that I wanted to.
I love that. Wanted to say that I feel like so much of what you're saying will resonate with so many people. And some people might be like, I've got to work hard. What does that mean? So like, for me personally, what can you say is, what can like ease people's mind when it comes to that like concept? Because like I don't know what it is. I hear the resistance coming up when people hear work hard, and that's something I've always felt comfortable with. But I know that not everyone resonates with it.
Yeah, that's a hard one because we have different generations, and different generations have different priorities. And it's taken me a long time to figure out that I also need to have a priority of self-care and I've always had a good balance of, work and fun, and I've traveled the world and have had an incredible quality of life. And I've just been fortunate enough to do so many things, but there is a component of having to dig in and work hard, but you can also learn to work smart, not just hard, right? There are a lot of people out there that work hard, but you have to learn to work smart. And so in my industry, especially surrounded by so many men who they're going to get the first look or have always gotten the first look. It's what can I do to make myself stand out and stand above the competition, if you will, people that are fighting to also climb the ladder and get those promotions and move up through a corporation. So learning to work smarter, learning to stand out. So you don't always have to just work, 100 hours a week. You can work smarter, and you can also do things, whether it's furthering your education, continuing education, doing additional things at work that aren't necessarily work, like philanthropy. I do in my company now, I do mentoring. I'm a part of a women's organization, part of the national committee, and then also a Southwest committee. So I've really found ways to expand, not just working, but doing other things. And that comes back and pays in multitudes for me.
Absolutely. So diversification, it feels like, has really helped you out and kind of helped propel you. I kind of wanted to go back.
Today's episode comes to you thanks to our sponsor, Kangen Water. Electrolytes reduced water is the power of true hydration, manifested in the most advanced Japanese technology that has been in the market for more than 50 years. To drink the best water, shower with a hot spring quality water, and start a new business with the most amazing and profitable compensation plan in the world, visit thelivingwatercouple.com to learn more or get started today.
You were speaking about a speaker series. Is that something that you can talk about, or is that something still kind of... Oh, cool. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So I hired a company. I had a publicist for quite a while helping me with the book and marketing and advertising the book and getting interviews set up. And they also helped me. The book won an award recently, which I'm very proud of. It's nonfiction writers. It won the bronze. So I'm super excited about that. But they really just helped guide me in where I needed to market and advertise and help me set that platform. But at the same time, I hired a company to help me establish a company for a public speaking platform. And so it was a lot of work. I was working all nights and all weekends because I work very hard with work and I travel a lot. So, my weekends were full of this for a very long time, the book, and then getting the public speaking company established. And so now we're there. You can check out my website, KendraPettyOfficial.com. There's a speaker page, there's a book page, and then there's a speaker page. And I now have a company that's helping me market, to really start reaching out to conferences and organizations that are looking for speakers, inspirational speakers, motivational speakers. And that's really kind of my genre. So it could be keynote speaking or workshops, or other kinds of platform and speaking panels, different modalities of conferences and events.
That's really cool. I love that idea. My next question was literally going to be like, what are some of your dreams and goals? But I feel like this kind of fits into that. Would you
Yeah,
say like that's something that's
absolutely.
been your dream?
Absolutely. I think that's really the next step to being able to share my story, but really share my healing journey and my healing path to help people heal. And that's my biggest goal. I think that's how the book got published, was I needed to help people. That's why I'm still here. I'm lucky to be alive. It's my daily reminder. It says lucky, and it's my daily reminder that I'm lucky to be alive, because I really should be dead. And I know a lot of people can say that, but if you read my story, you'll see where there's so many opportunities where I should just not be on this earth. So there is a reason for that. And so I want to share my story, but I also, more importantly, want to share how I healed, so that people can not feel alone, so that maybe they can take some of the nuggets of my path to healing, and just, really embrace life and learn to thrive. That's really my key, and my message to people is, you don't have to just be a survivor. You don't have to just survive life. You can thrive. You can learn to thrive. And that's really where I'm at in my last 6 years, is learning how to find peace, and joy, and not live in fear and anger, but really learn how to thrive. So that's my goal. And I think next to that, people constantly talk about the book is going to be a movie. It's going to be a movie. It's going to be a movie. April connected me to a couple of people recently that, do screenwriting, and one's a producer. And so, I've had some conversations with them. I don't think I'm really ready for that path, unless somebody comes to me and says, I love this project and I want to take it on. And I would say, great, take it on, knock yourself out, and I'm happy to consult. But I'm not really ready right now to run with that and make that a whole project of turning it into, a screenplay and shopping it and such. So that's out there. I think eventually somewhere, if someone takes the book and says, wow, yeah, I want to make this a movie. But outside of that, my focus is helping people, getting this speaker platform launched, and just running with that.
I love that. Yeah, I got chills when you said that about the movie, because it's that impactful of a read. Like, I definitely could see it I already was visualizing it in my head, I mean, I was doing that when I was reading it, but
Yeah.
to hear that it could potentially be a movie, I think that would be a great move. But I really just loved having you here, because I really wanted you to just talk about every aspect of yourself, because when I look at you as a human being, I feel like you were just embodying like life and just embracing it, and I guess just growing with it. And so my next question would be like, how are you so healthy and active, and what is your secret?
Well,
What can you give to people? What are you doing, Kendra?
well, I call it chasing the pain, because when this organization tried to kill me, they poisoned me. And I got very, very sick, very, very, very sick for a very long time. And it being poisoned led to a number of diseases, which I also had to fight. And so even to this day, I still deal with some of the ramifications of being poisoned, and then the diseases that came with that. But I call it chasing the pain, and I work really hard with a lot of doctors, including homeopathic doctors, so both Eastern and Western medicine. And I really focus on my body's health for many, many, many years, ever since I got poisoned. And so I do a lot of homeopathic, and I take a lot of supplements. My friends always say I travel a lot. And so my friends are always like, how do you have the energy to do all you do? And I say, it must be the supplements. But I think I'm just inherently driven for that. And I also know life is short. We only have so many years, and I don't want to miss out. So I love to travel. I really get out there. I love spending time with my family and friends, and all my family is very, in Texas and Oklahoma. So I travel a lot to see them, but I also travel the world. I'm fortunate enough to do that. I'm going to Europe this summer. I go to Hawaii a lot. And while I'm traveling, I like to be very physical. So whether I'm swimming in the ocean, I'm snorkeling, doing a little free diving, some hiking. I love to free rock climb. I do that in the mountains in California and Arizona and Nevada. I spend time in Sedona because it's very healing, and there's a lot of energy healers and people that can really help. I focus with doctors on my body, but I also have to focus on my soul and my mind and my heart. And so they help me do that. Last weekend, I spent 12 and a half hours in a seminar on realigning your energy and healing. It was a very intense seminar, and I don't do a lot of those, but it was an incredible seminar by Oliver Nino. So that was great, but really looking for things to help me heal in all respects. And by continuing down that path, that really gives me the energy to live the life that I should be living.
Wow. I already got some things that I need to write down. You said Oscar who? I gotta follow that guy.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
was, I think his nickname is the spiritual activator. So it was a great seminar. Very, very good
I
seminar.
love to even hear this. Like it makes sense because to know that you're being connected with nature and you're being successful and you're kind of tapping into all of these different modalities to try to find yourself and to heal yourself,
Right.
it feels right. Like that's so awesome, and I think people can definitely pull from that. Um, I did also want to point out, Kendra held up her hand. For anyone that's listening to the audio, she has Lucky tattooed on her hand. That is her sign of that she is lucky. So if you guys are not checking out the video, that is also mentioned in the book. And a lot of the references that we're talking about are coming from the book. I'd really like everyone to read it so that they can get really connected to the story. But I did want to ask, what is one thing that you would want people to know about you and why?
Oh goodness. I think I'm a very compassionate, very sympathetic person. I feel very deeply, even though I'm not real emotional. And my ghostwriter and I had, some debates over. There was a time where we were probably 3/4 of the way through the book, and she called me and she said, "Hey, these stories are incredible. This is going to be an incredible book. So many good facts and everything flows so well, but there's not a lot of emotion behind it. And so we really need to get to the emotion and how you felt in all these different instances. So we're going to set up some meetings, and I'm going to pull out some of these stories, and I'm going to dig in, and we're going to figure out how this made you feel so we can write some emotions around it." And I said, "Well, can't you just do that? Like that's why I'm paying you." It kind of turned into a little bit of a row where no, absolutely not. It's your feelings, not mine. And I said, "Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't have time for that. That just seems." And so, I was like, let me think about it. And we got off the phone, and I thought about it for a couple of days, and I called her back and I said, "Listen, Jessica, I want this to be a book that readers can connect with, that they understand the emotions that I went through, that they have feelings through the book, and that it moves them. And so I hear you, and so I really want to figure out this emotions thing." And she said, "Well, considering you called it this emotions thing, I don't think we're ever going to get there."
That's
But
hilarious.
I have grown so much in the last 6 years in terms of emotions. And I think a lot of it does come from my childhood of not being allowed to express emotions. We weren't allowed to not only express emotions, but not allowed to talk about them. We couldn't get angry. We couldn't cry, couldn't get upset. And so I think through my life, I learned to shove a lot of that down. So I've really grown a lot I've always been a very deep feeler, just not good at expressing it. So what we discovered was I had a very limited vocabulary for what those emotions were. So, my path to healing has been so varied, but it's also brought out so many more emotions and helped me feel. I'm still not a big crier, but I do feel very deeply, and it's helped me this whole path. And so I've always been very compassionate, always been very empathetic uh, and sympathetic, but I don't think I really knew how to express those or use them to help other people. So I've done a full 180 in really wanting to understand people and help help them heal.
Mm, I love that. I don't know if this will tie into it, but my last question was kind of centered around your fears, because I feel like a lot of powerful people talk about their success and how they found it, but not a lot of them talk about their fears. So I was kind of curious, what does Kendra fear? Or, what makes your, what scares you?
Yeah. I try not to live in fear, but that's very difficult. That
Hmm.
is, especially with a number of the things that I went through. Uh, Other than having a very, very mentally ill mother, one of the first traumas that I went through was the death of my brother when we were together. And he was my best friend. He was 10 and I was 8, and we were thick as thieves. I mean, two peas in a pod, and I worshipped him. I looked up to him, and he took care of me. He was my protector, and he died in a very traumatic death, a very grotesque, horrible death. But he died while we were together. He died protecting me, and that
Mm.
triggered horrific night terrors immediately. I immediately started having night terrors, and they lasted my entire life. My entire life. I mean, I would run out of hotel rooms at my home in the middle of the night. I'd wake up in strange places because I was running from whatever was my night terror. Usually it was someone trying to kill me. But it started from 8 years old until, to this day. But through my healing journey, they have dissipated. Uh, Probably 90%, probably 90%. But those night terrors created a lot of fear. And then going through all the different things I did through my childhood and then my adulthood culminating in the attempted murder, which really left me in a tremendous amount of fear. I had a lot to work through in terms of fear. I lived in fear every single day. Like I said, I looked over my shoulder. I shut down. I didn't allow people in my home. I installed the best security systems. I lived in fear for years and years and years. And then when I hit that wall, I said, I can't keep living like this. And so today I've worked hard to open my heart, to let people in, to let love in. And so I still, I do still battle with looking over my shoulder sometimes, especially now that the book's out. And I go into great detail about what happened to me in that attempted murder. And I worked hard in the book to make sure no one could figure out who these people are, because that's not my intent. My intent is not to reveal these people. My intent was to share my story. But I still have, I still deal with, I think, a little bit more fear than most people, of fear of my life and fear of, you know, that situation. But again, through my healing journey, I don't like to use the word journey because I feel it's so overused, but through my healing path, I really overcame a lot of that fear, and I started living the life that I should. I started thriving. I was shut down for so long, and I wouldn't let people in my house for so long that one of the first things I did was throw a huge party. There was like 80 people in my house for New Year's Eve, from turning into 2019, 2018, 2019. And I had people flying in from all over for it, and friends that I had known for years and years and years, 20, 30 years, who knew what I went through, said, I can't believe you're letting all these people in your house. And I said, this is my year of change, and things are going to be different. And I'm not going to let these fears control the rest of my life, because what kind of life am I living? I'm not thriving. And that's another reason for the tattoo is I had been through so much, and I had lived in fear and trepidation, and that I needed a reminder every day that I was lucky and blessed and fortunate to be alive and to be healthy and to be still on this earth and to be thriving. And it wasn't, a post-it note on the mirror on my desk, or a post-it note in my car. Like, I needed something close to me that when I had dark days or started to get frustrated or down, that I could just look at it and say, there's a lot of different ways your life could have gone, and you're living an incredible life, and you need to be grateful. And I try to live in gratitude every single day. So the lucky tattoo stemmed from that, and stemmed from reminding me that you're lucky to be here, and you have to continue to work to thrive and not get stuck in fear. So, like everyone, I have fears, but I really focus on trying to keep myself out of that, and live a life of thriving.
Yeah, we're all human. So yeah, we all have fears, and I'm so grateful for you being vulnerable and sharing that with us, because like I said, I know your story is going to transform and change somebody's life, whether they read the book, whether they're listening to this interview, or whether they just find you through your social media. Like, your story is super impactful. And even in connection to me, like, I lost my brother at a young age. So reading that in your story and hearing about how it transformed your family, my condolences, but also just I lend so much love to you, because I know it's tough and it's not easy to lose someone that you're really close to and someone that you love. So I just appreciate you for sharing your story and just joining me and being here, and I'm grateful for you being a friend. And I hope we continue to be friends all throughout our life. But before we get out of here,
I love the kids. Like, you're an incredible family. So I'm lucky to have you in my life.
Oh, thank you. We're lucky to have you. But before we go, I did want you to let everyone know, where can they find you? Where can they listen to you? Where can they get the book? Any and all that information.
I think the best place, I have Instagram, I have LinkedIn, I have all the various social medias. It's Kendra Petty or KendraPettyOfficial.com, or Kendra Petty Official on Instagram. But I think the best way, especially if you want to get in touch with me, or if you want to talk about a speaking opportunity, or if you want to get the book, or just read a little bit more about my life, you can go to my website, which is KendraPettyOfficial.com, and you can download a part of the book. You can order the book. You can read about me. You can also see all my different media from all my different podcasts, my radio interviews, my articles, read about the award, some of the reviews that have, for the book. So definitely KendraPettyOfficial.com.
Yes, and I am an advocate. Please go check it out. Please get the book if you have not. It is a great read. You will be fully immersed, and you will get to learn so much about Kendra. But thank you, Kendra. I appreciate you for being here. If you ever want to come back, you're more than welcome to. Like I said, you're just such an inspiration, and I know so many people can learn from you. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Devon, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you. It's great to see you. I hope you have fun in Florida, and tell your family hello, and hugs all around. But I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I will. I'll tell everyone you said hi. All right, you guys, we're going to sign out. Until next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, it's Icarus here.
And Amelia.
And I'm here to tell you if you'd like to join our brand new adventure. Go to DevonTaylorAuthor.com to learn more.
And check out the cool items like the new bucket hat.
Yeah, and so much more. See you guys there.